Welcome to Shaman Radio. This is Jon Rasmussen, and I'm pleased today to be joined in the virtual studio with my very special friend and colleague, Tiffany Warren. Tiffany Warren is a spiritual intuitive born and raised in Los Angeles, California. She's a degreed classical musician and a former gymnastics and dance instructor. Her spiritual intuitive experiences began at the age of 12 when she heard etheric music from an unknown source when her uncle passed away. After embracing her abilities in her adult life, she has helped hundreds of people with hauntings, clearing homes, offices, schools, and demonic presences. She tells her stories through her YouTube channel, Soul Stories. Welcome, Tiffany. I'm really honored to have you be my first live podcast interview for my new channel. And
Thank you.
Yeah. We go way back. I think we've been doing work for each other for probably 20 years now.
Yes.
I'm guessing. And you've helped me so much and so many people that I've sent your way. So Absolutely. I'm really excited about this. How are things?
Things are great. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here, deeply honored. I have so much respect for you as a person and as a shaman. And I just think this is going to be very powerful because I think this type of talk and expression is needed right now in this world. And I think it's going to be very healing and eye-opening for a lot of people. So I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Great. Yeah, I totally agree. And, we've both been the kind of medicine people that have, approached it from a relatively low key word of mouth, just happy to be of service. If people call on us and willing to do the work without compensation. And, so this kind of podcast stuff is really just another way of offering our gifts of experience and knowledge, right, on life in this world and the non-physical world. And I'm just hoping, it can help people with their quality of life, essentially, which I know is your number one thing. And of course, we both struggle to make a living in any other way we can, right? But that works out. And I think we were both raised Catholic and very well versed in essentially every other tradition. And, I know I've been a student of all religions and spiritual traditions, always trying to find the commonalities. And I think I've done well with that. I know you have. And, so we've had just a great resonance over the years. Right. And we're going to be covering a lot of material today. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be great. We will cover a lot. We have known each other for a very long time, and you've helped me a lot as well. And I just appreciate the work and the growth, and to be able to pass this on and to open ourselves up, especially to team up. And a first time, doing this and helping people. So I have a lot of stories and a lot of things and a lot that you come into that you guided me on, from afar, and you were like, hey, go, you're good to do this on your own now, kind of. So right. When I first met you, I was stepping into it, and you helped me to develop it. I had a couple of other shaman and some spiritual help and leadership that was great in my hometown and of the South Bay of Los Angeles. And here I am helping people.
Oh, no, it's amazing. And speaking of team and teaming up, I mean, that is really at the actual core essence, right, of what we both do in the different ways that we do it, is that we rely heavily on our non-physical team, in a huge way. We also need each other. We everybody needs work finding those spots that we can't find on our own, and so it's been amazing to witness this and experience this, and I always do my best, and I'll do my best in this podcast to tie everything together, where we recognize that the words we use, regardless of the languages they come from and the cultures they come from, they're essentially all talking about the same basic principles, of the world and of creation, and understanding, and really this helps our listeners understand, and relate to the universality of this wherever they're from, right? Because it really is universal. We get hung up sometimes in the languages and words, but that's not the point. They're all referring to the same thing, right? Like 1,000 names for God, for the one absolute only being, right? God, Dios, Yahweh, right? Allah, you name it, it's all the same thing. So it's kind of cool. And even in science, the dark the unknown, the dark energy, dark matter, quantum physics, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think being my great teacher and friend over the years, this is you've been a huge part of my team, and I'm excited to do this. And of course, before we get into it, heavily here, given the shamanic underpinnings of this and the nature of who you and I are, right, and who all is listening, I'm going to do what we know is hugely important when doing our work and going into these subjects, and likely channeling as we do, and facilitating clarity and empowerment, even just in a discussion, right, in this way. And that is to open sacred and safe energetic spiritual space for us, right, and the listeners. In many ways, it's analogous to what is held in a physical building like a church, a temple, a mosque, a kiva, a waka, all kinds of special places in nature, right? So we're going to do that right now. For me, it's a quick. I've been doing this for so long, it's pretty quick, and I'm going to do it without words. I'll do it, other than my rattles, it's basically a silent prayer of gratitude, right, for all that holds this space for us and protects our space for this kind of work. So I'm going to just do that real quick. All right. And then we'll get into it. And anyone listening, and of course I know you do this, Tiffany, is you'll, be doing the prayer in your own mind to your own team, right? Your own. So I'm going to do that real quick. Here we go. So let's start, Tiffany, if you don't mind, with how you first embarked on this fascinating path, right, of using your intuitive gifts and managed to stay healthy and protected enough, right, to sustain it to this day. Because we know that's a challenge when you're born this way, right? And then we can dive deeper into some details and how our experience and knowledge line up and are really universal. So go ahead and give it to me. Give it to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had, of course, an entire life of experiences, right? So you go through that, whether you want to or not, you go through the seeing things and hearing things and dreaming of things and not really understanding what it is. And I think, like a lot of other intuitive spiritualists, whatever you want to call them, I ran like sprinting away.
Shut it down, right? Or if someone else doesn't shut it down for you, you kind of go, oh, wait, this scares the heck out of me. I'm out of here, right? For sure.
Yes, exactly. Especially when I had was 15 years old and formed a gray streak in the very front of my hair after starting the psychic dreams and intuitive dreams. But I would say it was probably when I was 28 that I realized it's not something that's happening to you. It's something that is you, and you're a soldier of God. And it was a couple of people. I used to go to a store called The Path, and it was in Redondo Beach, California.
Mm.
And I met so many wonderful people there. And we would go in and have, spiritual talks, and it was really great, very positive. And the owner of the shop was Catholic as well.
Hmm.
And it was really them saying like, oh, you have to help people. That's your calling. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's what I do. That's what we were taught as Catholics, right? When you're a staunch Catholic, you volunteer and you do all
Yeah.
these things. And
Right.
then shortly after that, in this quest of understanding what was happening to me, because it was very intense, I met you. You were the first shaman that I met. And you told me, you said, you have to start doing the work. And you were smiling. And I'm like, why is he so excited about this? I'm horrified. I mean, I really came in like, I was telling you all these things. I remember I was terrified, and you were smiling, and you're like, yes, you were supposed to come to me for healing, and you're supposed to start doing the work. And so that and a couple of other people that I met along the lines of spiritual work helped me understand that I needed to start changing and turning that into helping others.
Yeah, that's really cool because, I got to a point in my own, and I'm kind of a reluctant shaman healer teacher myself. In other words, I'm very scientifically based, oriented, raised very pragmatic, very skeptical, etc. And yet I had all these, same kind of experiences, including near death experiences and everything. And so I always approached it. I think the smile came from the fact that I smile at death, right? Like it's an odd thing to be like, yeah, the worst thing that can happen is you can die, and that's not a big deal. So, it's all good, right? But
Right.
And also I think it's interesting because before I started shamanism, there were plenty of times, and you'll resonate with this, I'm sure, these dreams, like you say, you wake up and you're being attacked by malevolent forces, and I'll kind of get into what that's all about. It's pretty straightforward too, but and you're like, what the heck? And then of course, being raised Catholic and sort of being exposed to the right kind of things, including movies and things, you go, in the name of Jesus, get out of here. It doesn't even really matter if you're religious or don't have a religion. That's the thing to do. And it actually works the best, we figured out. But because he's got the, I always joke around, he's got the biggest street cred, like he's the most feared. It turns out experimentally, but, coming from that place, and meeting you and saying, hey, this is who you are, and you can do something with this, right? You can do work. And it didn't matter to me, and it never has and never will, that it was the way I do it or with the same lineage or the same, there's so many ways to do this work. And so I was just like knowing that this is your thing. Like, this is what you're here for. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And nothing else really works out until you do it, kind of a thing. And, so that's partly why I was smiling too, because it's like, you may not listen to me now, but if it's 10 years from now and you're asking the same question, it'll be the same answer, right? So, because I've seen that with people, right? So that's cool. And I just wanted to throw that in there. And I love how you said soldier of God, right? Because this speaks to, again, that's certain words in English, right? Mm-hmm. But fundamentally, it is, being the healer, the shaman, the priest, the person in the village who's there to help, right? And not only with the physical world, because in the physical world, there are good people and bad people, for lack of a better way to say it. Right? There's people who wish you well and want you to be free and in your power and happy. And then there's people who want to take from you. There's people that want to mess with you. It's part of the theater. It's okay. It's just the way contrast it has to be, right?
Right.
But that's also true in the non-physical world, right? And this is that whole concept of demon, demons or jinn in the in the Muslim religion, and different words for the same kind of like malevolent, mischievous, greedy beings that want to take and want to mess with us and want to get us riled up and then take that energy. It's a thing.
Yes.
It's not that, it's like as above, so below. It's similar in the physical world as the non-physical world. So people don't need to like think, oh my God, that's like a whole nother thing that I don't understand. It's like, no, it's just like here. It's just like walking down the street and someone tries taking your stuff, or, why we have locks on our doors. So why we have soldiers, why we have military, why we have people, police protecting other people, being a spiritual soldier of God is no different. It's just you're fighting, you're capable of engaging with angels and the non-physical teams that can protect people, help people, right? Save them from being messed with. Is that right? Would you agree? Maybe you can add to that.
No, I love that, because when I work with people and I do my soul circle and kind of get together and have the conversation, because I think it's very important for souls to unite in that way. But adding to what you were saying, I always tell people it's a parallel. What's happening in the physical life, the physical realm, is happening in the spiritual. And for example, we get up every morning and we shower, or we work out, we take care of our bodies, we eat, we have to, have nutrition in order to have energy. And it's the same exact thing. And when I go into, someone calls me and they're in a complete state of fear, freaking out. I've received calls where they're crying and just absolutely freaked out. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, someone's in my house. And I, you can tell, you and I can both tell who's real and who's kind of not.
It's just in their mind.
It's in their mind.
Mental illness or something,
Yeah, these have been like real calls. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see what's going on. So I check it out in my mind. And then I go to their home and I ask them, when is the last time you did a cleansing on yourself or your home? And it's always this look of like just a question mark, like what?
Right.
And I said, oh, okay, well, I said, you have an opening here, and go through the whole thing. And it's always very surprising to them. So I do agree with what you say. I tell people to take the guesswork out of it, see what you do in your physical life. If you're not taking care of yourself and you're not eating right and you're, not working out, you're not doing the meditation to calm your mind, it's going to affect you. And even more now, because it's so much more intense. It's so much more necessary for us to take care of ourselves.
Right. That's true. The more toxic, right, the environment, the more you have to take your vitamins, right? You gotta, and I think that's true in the non-physical. And mentally, right? It's all the same, all these different layers. And I agree, like you got to exercise your soul. You got to feed and exercise your soul as much as your body. Absolutely. And we've lost that concept. I mean, it's been in modern society, obviously relegated or owned primarily by the major religions, which are wonderful in that, right? In that ritual and ceremony, and that stuff's essential, right? And but people get it confused. It gets confusing, and it gets distracting, and it's really doesn't have to be. It's really simple and straightforward, and you either do it to help yourself or you don't. But there's no judge, or I think people get caught up in the idea that there's a God or somebody that's judging them,
Right.
right, and going to punish them if they don't do it. I think of the 10 Commandments, and I think I wrote an article a long time ago about, they're more like, or maybe it was in my book, they're more like the 10 suggestions than the 10 Commandments. It's like if you want a good life and you want to be happy and healthy, don't commit murder,
Yeah.
basic stuff. But I think it got confused with, oh no, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this because it's an obligation to God or to my religion, that if I don't do it, then I'm in trouble. And it's like, no, if you don't do it, you won't be healthy. It'll be a mess possibly. So in that sense, it's kind of true, potentially.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that can get away without exercising and eating well. So it's like, who's to say on a soul level it's the same? But that makes sense, right? I want people to understand this isn't that wild and out there and mysterious and weird. This is pretty straightforward, even from a very scientific engineering mind,
Absolutely. And I know what you're talking about, where people are, it's amazing to me. Now, I blame the Catholic Church a lot for this, and a historical Catholic Church. And I have a right to speak upon it because I'm not only Catholic, I actually study, the religion and the theology of it and the mindset and the documents. So I have my master's degree in choral conducting. And it's amazing in music studies how much is studied in the Catholic Church, because a lot of the music that we study comes from the Catholic Church. The Council of Trent, and I really looked at all of this when I was looking at the documents of the church and the history and where the mentality came from. I think that the Catholic religion itself is very beautiful. The ritual of it is very beautiful. Like you reflect, you genuflect, you walk in and you make the sign of the cross. You acknowledge that God is there. I think that's all very beautiful. I think it's messy when the politics come in. Well, politics makes everything messy, right?
True.
So you have this say 15th century, 14th century, you have this, Council of Trent, who is the people they absolutely believe that the only way to get to God was to go through the church, was to go through the clergy. And this was very frustrating during that time, especially when people started to question it, right? And what was going on is the church was controlling the people by using God as the excuse.
Yeah, it was like good marketing to build the membership. Right? Fundamentally, like if you're into marketing and you want to grow, and you're right. That's where it kind of gets funky. Yes. Right. And it reminds me in the shamanic traditions where it's, which is really kind of older and more fundamental, and kind of the fundamental basis, arguably, for any spiritual tradition or religion, if you just, because it just goes back tens and tens of thousands of years. Yeah. But there's two distinctions, right? So there's who they call, and my Caro teachers from Peru speak about this the same way. There's the shaman, and then there's the sorcerer. Okay. And the shaman is hey, I'm humble. I just want to help you, whoever comes to me, to have a good quality of life, to be free and in your power, to be the creators of your own experience without succumbing to influence, etc. And I will help you do that, whether you can pay me or not. And it's all good. Now, a sorcerer will go, oh, I can use the same tools, rituals, ceremony. They're all very powerful to help you, but I can also use them to hurt others. Like I can give you an advantage, but you have to pay me, because in order to make that happen, I have to work with a team that extracts payment from me. Okay. Right. So sorcerers were always in this funky battle between each other and using non-physical beings that weren't always, the good ones. and getting caught up in it. And then, people would become dependent on them. They wouldn't be empowered. They would be disempowered, right? Because,
Right.
and it's super important to make that distinction. And I think that's what's spread. It's like, wait, are you using this religion, which is beautiful, which rituals and ceremonies can really improve your quality of life. And it's all very shamanic, actually, the Catholic Church in a big way in that way. And it's like, or are you using it to gain power, get something from people, build your coffers, and then what's happening, right? So I think it kind of comes down to the same idea to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really about people have this need to be in control, right?
Right.
And if
Out of fear.
Yeah, it's the fear. And if you're not in control of something, if you can't control the next step or what happens in an hour or the next day or the next month, you feel out of control. And I love, there's this something I was listening to from Deepak Chopra, and he was pretty much like, if you release it and trust that you're just floating and just trust that experience in that moment, then you can find, but I think people force it. They force it and they're trying so hard to control everything. And I believe that's what was going on during a time. Well, the church does that a lot. And I'm a Catholic. I love the ritual, but I'm also the Catholic that speaks up. And
well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
When I wrote my thesis, I work with a wonderful auxiliary bishop in the LA Archdiocese. He is wonderful. And he's so open and he really listens. And, I bring things to his attention because that's what we do on the board that he put us on. And he really, really listens. And it's beautiful that that's trying to happen. But there's so much in the Catholic Church that's very cemented. And it's what I say goes, and that's it, Yeah,
it's become hierarchical and institutionalized, right? So then as soon as you do that, it's like politics. It's a lot to get anything to change, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, right? Because that letting go, like you said, and everything. I've always been a do-it-yourself kind of person. And I don't know why. There's some psychology behind that probably, but basically, even when it came to this, like if I'm dealing even with the non-physical world, right, and negative energies or entities, and man, in the beginning, it was like I tried my hardest to fight my own fight, and and then I realized, wait a second, I'm not strong enough. I can't do it myself. I'm going to start calling on the team. And that's the other thing that's kind of cool about the Catholic Church is that the team, right? Mary and Yeshua, Jesus, and the archangels is a pretty solid team, right? Like they're
Truly. And the saints.
And the saints. Oh my God. Right.
Wonderful experiences with saints growing up. And I was appreciative of the Catholic Church, like introducing you to them. And
just powerful people, good bodyguards, like the best martial artist bodyguards, you can, like masters, right? And I think that's the bottom line. And then people get carried away with this notion that they're somehow in hierarchy, like they're superior in some way. No, they're just good at that. They're good at martial arts. I mean? Not like the Pope is a special being, or the Dalai Lama for that matter. Any of these are somehow special human souls, like beyond even Yeshua, right? Like Jesus, dealt with his 40 days and nights in the desert of who am I, what the hell do I think I am, and what am I doing here, right? And it's like, we're all flawed, we're all human. And then so that's what people need to understand in things like institutions, churches, shamanism. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not about the person, it's not about the institution. That's flawed. People are flawed. You and I, we have our flaw. Like, it's not about worshiping us or being dependent on us or giving us your power. It's about use our gifts. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
And, you know, and know that that's okay, that it's only humans that have determined these rules and these judgments. You and I both know that Jesus, I was joking this morning that, like my mom used to say, Jesus punishes, as a way of like
Oh.
scaring me not to do something bad. And it's like, that was not true. Jesus doesn't punish, right? God doesn't even punish. Nobody punishes except humans, right? trying to control out of fear. And it's not, even that's not a bad idea, but nonetheless, I think we got that kind of figured out, right? So what happened when you first started realizing that a big part of your work, because I consider this to be true. I mean, everything you do is super helpful and insightful and like all the things, but you have this pretty powerful specialty of, exorcism and like really getting those particularly nasty beings to go away.
Yes.
How did that come about? And how did that work? What did that mean to you?
That was very interesting because it took a long time for me to realize that that was my specialty. And an unfortunate specialty, fortunate and unfortunate specialty, because that was the thing that frightened me the absolute most when I was younger.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing I could do. I know that.
Yeah, I think according to Amy Allen, she's a well-known psychic and she studied it. She has credentials in this, and she was saying that that's like the absolute, like you can have all kinds of other things that visit you or that you encounter, but getting into that dark side, that demonic side, anything coming from, Lucifer, Satan, that is probably the most intense. And I remember when I was a teenager, and when I was 15, it was very significant what was going on in my life. Now I had a bunch of things happening where Christ was coming in. I mean, really coming in. I had a cross in my window shining through brightly, and it was magnificent. And I would hear his voice. I would hear the Blessed Mother's voice. And I remember one night she saved me from some darkness that was coming in, and I was scared. I couldn't move my body. I was sweating, and I managed to get my hands up on my rosary. But anyway, when I was being attacked in this way, someone had told me, wow, like Satan's really out to get you. That I cannot tell. I probably could have had a heart attack and died because it was so scary to hear something like that. And I thought, you know what? I am going to just pretend this isn't happening. So I literally went into my head and I was like, he doesn't exist. And that's that. And I'm done with it. So I'm walking through life. I'm trying to be a normal teenager. Not happening. I remember it was in like a cluster of days where each day something happened. I was in my mom's room and I was laying on her bed and I was listening to something, maybe radio or something like that. And the bed started to shake. And it was like really shaking. So being from California, the first thing you do is you get in a doorway, right?
Yeah.
So I get in the doorway and my mom's like, what are you doing? And I said, there's an earthquake. And she's like, no, there wasn't. And I'm like, I just felt the bed shake. And she's like, I'm pretty sure there wasn't. So of course there was no earthquake. And I didn't understand what that was. Then it was just like a couple of days later, I think, I was listening to a song, and in the song, the lyrics said, the devil shook my bed.
Oh, right.
And my whole body just, and I just thought, no, he doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. And the more I pushed it, the more he came at me. And to the point where we had a really long hallway in our house growing up. I would see him at the end of the hallway waiting for me. And I would wait for my mom to go to bed. I mean, I was a teenager. I was just as tall as she was, and I would wait for my mommy. And because I felt protection with her, and I thought, oh my gosh. So anyway, when I got through the years of being attacked and having the dreams and just being all kinds of things. There were so many stories, which is why I have soul stories.
Right.
I got angry. I was probably in my mid 20s and I had an attack where a demonic presence, two of them, tried to choke me in my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember waking up, like something was pushing me to wake up, and I could hear them. They said, "She's waking up, run." They were like, "Get away, go, run, she's waking up." And when I woke up, the sheets and my blankets were gathered around my neck.
Wow.
And they were like bunched. And I remember being scared, but I kept going back to the thing that they were saying, "Get away, she's scared." And I'm like, are they scared of me? And
Exactly, right?
yes.
You learn that nothing has power over you. This is huge.
Yeah.
People need to know that they
Right.
can be defended or defend themselves very effectively. Yeah.
It's written. I mean, God gave us authority over Satan, and people get really freaked out about it. And I get it. It's a scary thing, and I've gone into some situations where I've seen some, and I'm sure you have too. I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen some stuff that I'm like, what is I mean, there are a couple of cases, I'll call them, where I almost didn't go. I was like, I don't want to tango with that.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
thing, right? Jeez, it's a big deal.
it is. It really is. And I've been on interviews with different, psychics and so I don't like to call myself a psychic. I call myself an intuitive or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Um,
just a word again that describes people who can track through
sure.
space and time,
Right.
see things other people don't,
Right.
etc.
But I was
Maybe
on
do
with
something about it, hopefully.
with a
Right.
bunch of other ones and they were kind of, like, well, like I'm not scared of them kind of thing. And I'm like, I never go in with ego.
Yeah,
I
it's good to be scared and
It's
courageous.
scary. Yeah, there's nothing it's meant to be scary. And it's definitely scary, but my faith is stronger. That's
Yeah.
the difference. And when I go in to do work, I remember the first time I went in, it was a big, giant job. It was at a school. And this craziest thing is it was at an FAA building.
Oh, wow.
And before I went in, I called you and I said, "Hey, are you going to be in LA? Because I could use your backup." And you said, "Yeah, I'm going to be there tomorrow." And the craziest thing is I had to do the work that day.
Right.
And I said, "I'm really concerned with this one." And you told me, you said, "Don't be concerned. You have Christ so close to you. You're like, you can do this on your own." And
Mm.
I did. I went in. It took 2 days to get out what was put in there.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, but people get very scared of that. I find that there aren't a lot of people who can handle that type of thing. So I do make sure that people know that I can handle that,
That's
and
good. Yeah.
and they need to know that there are people out there that can help them.
Right. And it's to me, it's again that do-it-yourself part of me kicks in, but it's like the prayer and and ritual, the soul exercise that one can do. It's just like training in self-defense or martial arts or whatever. I've done that. I've got like 3 black belts and 3 different systems, and like pretty
Yeah,
confident in my ability, no matter how big or gnarly a person is, I can handle it.
right,
But I'm not scared. So that's, like you said, it's not like you're completely fearless. But if
right,
someone's looking suspicious and they're outside the house or whatever,
yeah,
I'll walk out and I'll go right up to them and go, "Hey, what's
right,
up? What's going on? What are you doing?" It just happened the other day, actually. And I don't, because I have confidence in the exercise, the preparation, the work I've done
sure,
to physically have the ability. And to me, it's the same thing you were talking about. The work you did, the prayer, the study, the the ritual, the connection that you've made to the best team of spiritual martial artists, for lack of a better word, but like really capable beings, right?
right,
Jesus being the number one in my experience, and Mary and the angels, it's like you can walk into that situation, and if you can't handle it, they will.
Oh,
What I
yeah.
mean? So that helps even more. And it's so good for people to recognize that's why you do it. That's why, if you can't do it, if you don't want to do it yourself, if you don't want to study and prepare and make your own relationships with these beings, then call on the best. Call on someone like you, right?
Right,
That
right.
that does have that ability. And we will call on the team. We'll do it for you. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's just a huge thing. And shamanism is the same thing. The lineage that I was initiated in, the Karo shamans before me, that show up when I show up, that come when I call, that are really good at
Hmm.
doing the energy clearing and all this, the work that involves the work that I do. And thank God they show up, and
Yes.
people get good results, and they think I did it. And I'm like, I didn't really do much. I showed up courageously and called on the team, and I was willing to be there and hold that space. And I've done my work to be able to have that happen, you know. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, I love that. Right?
Hmm.
You have been, like, honestly, like I've said, if there's big work to do, if there's, look, I have some people, I think one of my shamanic teachers was like, I don't do extractions anymore. Nope, don't do it, because it's just too, it's too, it's a lot, right? As you know,
Intense. Yeah.
it's intense, it's a big battle. And, but you are that force of nature, right? Physically and non-physically, that I know if it needs to get done, you're the A team, right?
Yeah,
So
I really felt such a calling when I had my first reading, and I was really against it because at that time I was sort of a brainwashed staunch Catholic, and I'm like, no, we can't do. I didn't even know why I was saying no, I couldn't do it. But my friend
yeah.
took me, and they were the two sweetest little old ladies. They were so cute, and
Mm.
they of course picked me out of the crowd of, like, I don't know, 80 people. And when they told me, they were like, you're very powerful. And I had always received this sort of, you're very powerful. And that in itself scared me, because I'm like, what do you mean? But I also had ancestors who had abilities that have shown
Right.
up in the work I've done with you and
So
the
your
work
own
that.
DNA ancestors had the same.
Exactly.
You can count
Yes.
on them too, right?
Yes. And they've, they're, it's kind of typical of my family to just be like, hey, you get out there and do it on your own, you got it. And so that's kind of like my mom's side, but I had it on both sides, where there's Cherokee and Blackfoot Indian
Hmm.
Cherokee, Blackfoot Indian on my mother's side. Maternal, paternal is all Cherokee.
Mm.
And the Cherokees have always come in very strongly, like in either cleansings or readings or work. And it's
Mm.
always that. It was always the chair. And I knew of them,
Yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
and I know that's very powerful. And I was always really upset with the African, because that's a very powerful tribe and tradition, tribes and tradition. And I
Hmm.
was like, where are you? Like, I'm 80% African. Like, where are you? Why
Yeah.
aren't you giving me this as well? But I did find that my ancestors were very strong. Some had a reputation of being very scary to people. They were very fearful of them. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely took it in that way. But I'm all about heart. I'm all about God, and I work with God's light and whoever He gives me to work with. And I'm there, and I'm never scared to go in and do the work when I see it, because I ask them to reveal what I'm going into, and it always comes, and it's always usually pretty scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, you've been, just absolutely right on and tremendously helpful for any and all things of that nature that have gone in and gone on in my life and some of my loved ones. And it's like, wow, it's there's nothing like, and this, for people listening and wondering, well, what is this? What are they listening to? It's like there's nothing like, and this is the scientist in me going, the scientific method. You got a problem, you try something, the injunction, you do something, you observe the results. You is it repeatable? You do it again, the same results. You've got proof,
right?
It's like, I don't, on some level it helps to have faith and see what happens, but for us, it's been proven over and over and over again. Like we're not just speaking from, something we've been told. These are experiences, we have had directly. And this is why I tell people, I've had shamanic clients for my whole life here that from all religions and all, a-religious, atheist, you name it, Jewish, Muslim, Mennonite, and regardless of who they are, if they're experiencing these kind of attacks and things like that, I go, look, you don't have to necessarily become a Christian, but you really want to get it done, call on Jesus, right?
Yeah, that's going to be
you could stay Jewish, you could stay this, you could stay Muslim, but I'm telling you, because I've done it all. I practiced many different, I studied and practiced a lot of different things and connected to a lot of different lineages and my own DNA ancestry. And man, you got this available. And then that's the other part of it. I don't know if you ever saw the movie. One of my favorite movies on this subject was a true story about a young priest from Saratoga, California, where I used to live in Cupertino. That was like my area. And he wanted to become an exorcist, I guess. And he went to, Rome, to Italy or whatever, and did the formal training. And true story. And Anthony Hopkins plays this old exorcist priest who lives in the country, and he goes to like work with him like as an apprentice, right?
Yes.
I can't remember the name of the movie. I got to figure it out. But
I know what you're talking about. I've seen that movie, and I want you to continue. But I actually spoke to that exorcist, that priest.
Well, there you go. Right. So this is what I'm talking about. Direct experience. You can't argue with it. So, but one of the most important things that I learned from that, because it was very realistic and the battles were real. I mean, it's a great movie. It's not like the Exorcist movie, like it's like a little over the top. This one is legit. And it's like, the number one thing I learned from that, and I've done articles and videos on this, is that the demon, right? The devil, whatever Lucifer, whoever was messing, trying to kill this priest, basically, right? Like shut him down, which is the whole point, right? It was like, oh, I remember what you did when you were a little boy, trying to instill guilt, right? Because guilt, and this is true in the shamanic traditions, guilt, shame, doubt, self-judgment is the one and only way that these beings can get to you, that sorcery can get to you, curses can get to you, demons can get to you, is where you're getting yourself.
Yes.
And if you go, nope, I'm forgiven. And this is the whole point, I believe, of Jesus's death on the cross, was to say, hey, stop feeling guilty. I'm dying for your sins. I'm taking it on for you. Right. Relax, chill out, because it's the only way that the demons get gain. That's the only way they win anything, is where you're doing it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so, do you agree? Like this, that was something I came to myself, but you're the expert on the subject. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is that the demonic realm, right? It's led by Lucifer. We all know who Lucifer is and was.
Yeah, the top dog.
He was the top dog, and God created Archangel Michael to fight him out of heaven.
Yeah.
And so and he was unleashed on earth so that we can make these choices. But when they are near, there are different levels of demons,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all bad. But there are different levels of demons. It's so many different levels. It's crazy.
Just like criminals, right? There's the
Right.
mafia bosses, and there's the the sociopathic murderer. You know, like same, right? As above,
Right.
so below. Yeah.
Yeah. And the demonic realm, one thing that they will do is, if you allow them to, now they will go in through your fear, which is why I say your faith has to be stronger than your fear, because you're going to
Mm,
have fear regardless.
I love
But the
that.
thing is they will go in and check and see, like, where's her weakness. So when I had stress induced heart palpitations for a long time,
Mm.
and I was worried about them because there was nothing wrong with me. Like, I went to all kinds of, doctors, and they're like, there's really nothing wrong. You need to just stop stressing. I'm like, no kidding. So I was in a house clearing it, and they knew, because I held a lot of fear of having these heart palpitations, because they're frightening and they make you feel like you're going to pass out.
Right.
And I started the heart palpitations immediately, and I knew it was an attack. I knew it. They will find your weakness and they will attack you. That's why an exorcist. So in Italy, that's where you go for the training. That's where the clergy goes for the training. And
Mm-hmm.
FYI, the Pope has asked several clergy to step up in this way. He said there are more possessions and people calling in because they feel they're possessed more now than ever. And
Mm.
it's a really intense thing to have, like, a deliverance ministry. And he's called every Catholic church to have one. But
Wow.
anyway, you go to Italy for this training, and it's very intense. And a lot of the clergy, the priests, don't continue it because they're so scared. But yeah, it's just I sometimes get off of the track because I'm an air sign and I go all over the place. But
No problem.
there's just so many different levels of demons, and they know your weaknesses. But the exorcist will tell you, clear your mind before you go in and do anything. Now, I have recently been dealing with some attacks, and it's interesting because the more I pray the Archangel Michael prayer, the more I ask the most fierce side of the Blessed Mother, Tlaquatlaquepe, to come in and protect me, the more I am attacked. And I went to a spiritual store, and the girl was like, "Oh my gosh, are you protecting yourself?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm here, aren't I?" They haven't done me in. So yes, I'm very well protected, but I also have the ability to see it. So if I don't see it, then I won't know what to do.
Mm.
But yeah, it's the dark side is no joke, and it's there. It's if you haven't done the work on yourself, the meditation, the prayer, the whatever that is to you and for you, and it's like you really have to be in a daily practice.
Mm.
If you're feeling like, I know a lot of people with abilities who have not honed their skills because they're scared of them. So they're like,
Even
well, I'm
more
going to
important,
go.
right? The more open one is, the more important this stuff is, in my opinion.
Yeah. And they'll run and, they'll start drinking or they'll do drugs because they don't want to see it or hear it. And that's just not the greatest thing to do. It's like you have to feel all of it to understand and get on the other side. There's space on the other side.
Yeah, that's cool. I was going to say maybe as we can come to a bit of a close here for this one, but it's like, what would be the bullet point, several suggestions for listeners in terms of, in addition to, calling you, right? what and you just mentioned one, right? Have some kind of daily practice. People lock their house when they leave. They lock their car door. Why did they do that? Well, because it's just smart. It's safe, right? So it's not like this is crazy, so on the same level, on a soul level, what are a few suggestions from your experience that are super effective? I threw one out there just now. Don't feel guilt, shame, doubt, self-judgment, whatever it takes not to do that is helpful. But what are suggestions you have that could really help people just be a little stronger, a little more secure, have a healthier soul, mind, right? More
Yeah.
protected, not, whatever. What would you suggest?
I would suggest doing the soul work. And people are like, well, what does that mean? The soul work is being very honest with yourself about who you are and what you are. Because I feel like we live in a time where everybody wants to put the blame on someone else. And when we have to look at ourselves, if we've done something wrong, we need to look at that. Don't worry about being judged by a higher being. Worry about yourself. Look in the mirror and be absolutely honest, because you have to get clear. You have to clear out all of the energy with yourself, so then they don't have anything, to use against you.
Cool. So something like we talked about, hey, I don't feel good about what I did this time in my life or yesterday, but I'm going to do better, and I'm going to forgive myself, or I'm forgiven, or I'll ask for forgiveness, whatever the case may be, right? So you can let that go, clear it away, right?
Absolutely. And it's really just about yourself. It's like you mentioned earlier, Christ died for our sins. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad when people take on a lot of heaviness, from something that they did, or the way that they are. And it's like, well, this is all the stuff we're supposed to be going through so that you can sharpen up your soul and you
Mm-hmm.
can build your soul. So that's the first thing. You have to be really honest with yourself and where you're at. Then from that point, you can see clearer who's your team. Identify your team. Is this the
Beautiful.
ancestor?
Identify your team. Nice.
Identify your team and make sure you call on them, because they will come and they will be right next to you. So, get yourself right. We're always a work in progress. But
Yeah.
yeah, identify your team, and then whatever you feel drawn to, don't dismiss that out of your mind. Don't be dismissive of things like that. Sit down, write them down, put on some meditation music, and really explore, what is that. I'm attracted to going and getting a selenite tower. Why? What is a selenite tower?
Right.
And so really
Selenite.
understanding, like, what are the things that are coming into your mind. My tools are, of course, I have a huge team, and I have a lot of selenite. I have a lot of selenite.
Selenite is that crystal that looks fibrous, white fibrous stuff that is good for protection, essentially, right? It helps to.
Yes.
We use crystals, clear crystals, in extractions in our shamanic tradition for that reason. It can trap the negative being or energy.
Mm-hmm.
More attractive to them than the person's body they're attached to, and they come to the crystal, and then we go cleanse the crystals.
Yeah, it's like a
that. So
court.
selenite helps with that.
Selenite is actually a
Cool.
protectant. So if you take
Right.
selenite and you put it in your doorways and in your windows, and it creates
Mm.
this shield, because it's believed to be a piece of the angelic realm. So it's like, I
Cool.
just imagine this beautiful white light surrounding you with protection. It's very powerful, and I wear it every time I go in to battle something.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. It's also a nice ritual. Like when you said identify your team, I think of our shamanic tradition, and it's true in many spiritual traditions because they stem from the same, but the mythic layer, the subconscious part of us. So consciously you could have a dialogue with your team in your mind, but it's also cool, like, to have an altar with a couple of pictures, right? And my altar,
Absolutely.
when I was just getting into this, at the time I was into a guru tradition, Siddha Yoga, and I had all the guru pictures and lots of other, like, the special Hindu gods and thing. I had a cool altar, right? Because it was a place to go meditate and light a candle and incense or whatever. And then when I learned the shamanic thing, it's like, oh, by the way, where are you in that? I went, oh yeah, that's right. So I put my picture up on the wall. We're surrounded by, Jesus and Mary and the gurus and you name it, and went, oh, okay, now that makes sense. Now that's the team, that makes them my team symbolically, right? Mythically with this ritual. So yeah, I love that. That's cool.
Yes, having an altar. I do encourage people to make their altar, and that's your place to go. I've always had one.
I love
And
it.
yeah, my altar has everything from Ganesh, to Christ to saints. And it's really beautiful. And it's beautiful to pull from other beliefs, because there's a really
Yeah.
powerful Muslim prayer that I started to say, because it's just all about bringing God in and God's light, and understanding what Hinduism is. It's very symbolic. It's a
Right.
practice. It is ritual. Understanding what Buddhism is,
Yeah, I have a really
understanding.
powerful Buddhist prayer for these things. It's amazing, but use them all, right?
Use them all. I mean, he gave us a beautiful buffet. Why are we
Yeah.
hiding under one umbrella? The Christians are so scared, and they just almost want to make me not a Christian. And I'm like, I'm
Right.
fine with that. Because
Yeah, it's a bit of misunderstanding, I think, of the teachings, obviously, from the
sure.
Aramaic to translations. But
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, one of the I'll add to this that that concept of you can have all the protection, but if you're feeling guilty or beating up yourself, you're opening that iron door and letting them in anyway, right? So the point is, like, go to your altar, uh, release things. Like, we blow into a stick. I like advise my clients, blow into a matchstick and then light the candle with it, saying
Ooh.
whatever that guilt feeling I'm having, that shame, that doubt, that self-judgment, I'll get rid of it by using my breath to blow it in the stick and then lighting the candle. And it's like, now when I go into the Catholic Church, right, a beautiful cathedral or a church, and it has those side rooms with the
Mhm.
saints and the candles and the incense, and you could put your
Mhm.
$5 in and light a candle. It's
Yeah.
like, that's what I do. I
Yes.
absolutely take advantage of that. Like, they'd love it. Come on in, and do the holy water, which is a whole nother thing we haven't even talked about, right? But
Right.
blessed water, which in our tradition, agua de Florida, we use to clear space. It's very universal. But this blessed water that you put over your chakras, or the sign of the cross, which is essentially the same thing,
Right.
and then so, like, go in there and light a candle and leave your worries, leave your guilt, leave your sins at the door,
Yeah.
right? And walk out of there probably feeling a little better, but also, more importantly, being more protected. You've done your soul work. That's a way to
Yes.
do the soul work. I love that.
Yeah, I always feel protected when I'm in a sacred space, and especially the Catholic Church, because that's really what it was created for. It was very well thought out to the design,
Yeah,
and even
right.
to the music that they sing. But
Oh,
my
music
thing is,
is beautiful,
one
right?
thing that I really want people to try to understand is, you cannot use sage and Palo Santo. You can't go buy all of these things and then use them without some kind of intention.
Hmm.
It's not like spraying for ants. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
Yeah, they're
I
not
see.
just gonna, right. You can't just go around and all the demons go running. It's like, no, you got to kind of add all this other stuff to it.
Yeah, I mean, you have, but this probably one of my most popular stories is the Monster Woman. And that was me going into a home and finding this really frightening looking demon. I was like, well, who opened the door to that? Where did
Hmm.
that fall out? So I'm standing there talking to the two women that were, completely freaked out. I had to leave my studies and go to their place at, like, I don't know, 10, 11 at night. And she's like, I don't understand how it got in. I have a rosary and a crucifix right there. And I
Hmm.
looked at the rosary and the crucifix, and I'm not kidding you, the demon was dancing around it. It
Yeah.
was frightening. And I looked at her and I said, have you prayed that rosary? Or have you sat in connection with that crucifix? Or is it just for decoration? Just to say, I'm Catholic, this is what we do. And she was just like, no. Well, then there you go. You
Yeah.
can't just have things because they look cool, and they're kind of, you have to
Yeah.
connect and it's coming from you. Those things are secondary and they are helpful, very
Mm.
helpful, but it comes from your soul. You have that power and you
Mm.
should trust in yourself with that. That's the one thing and please do not sage like crazy, because sage can really interrupt the energy in your home. Sage is like a bleach cleaning. It's a deep clean, and then you leave it alone until you need it again, and you feel when you need it. But people are burning sage like they're burning incense every day,
Mm.
and it's just
Yeah, no, it's serious business. You
what
don't
you
want.
use it for.
Yeah, that's good advice. I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that. And I love that you mentioned music because I forgot, like, sound vibration in every tradition is super powerful,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Music, choir, I mean, bells. We use bells in the shamanic, the carol ring bells. And it's right. It's like, and I will find myself in a session unplanned, like channeling on some level, which is mostly I'm in an altered state when I'm doing that work anyway, but it's like start to hum or sing or whistle a song.
Yeah,
And
it's
this is
beautiful.
your thing. So tell me a little bit more about why that works.
It is. It's my thing. It's music is my life, and music speaks to everybody on some level, and I think it's beautiful. And I explained to them the difference between what I do with music is that I studied it,
Right.
and I became someone who can create it and understand it and explain it because I love it that much.
Yeah.
But I started doing a choral sound bath. We had our first one about a year ago, and it was really beautiful. People came, the place was packed, and they laid on the floor. We had chairs for people who couldn't get on the floor. And we just had people, we invited them to close their eyes, we invited them to relax. And my beautiful group, the Seraphim, we are an early music group in Los Angeles. We
Nice.
sang beautiful music from Old Roman chants,
Oh,
all the way through to music from the 14th or 15th century, which is called polyphony.
hmm.
We sang everything from Taizé. I mean, it was really lovely, and everyone left. They told me when they were leaving, they're like, "I feel so good." And my thing is, when you're singing, I'm particularly drawn to, of course, choral music, but I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to change the experience because it can be very uptight. And
Mm.
the goats go in and sit with our nice clothing on and be very obedient and, watch the conductor while they're, flapping their wings. And I'm like, why don't we have them be part of it? Because it's healing. Because there's a reason why I break out in tears when
Yeah,
I'm singing. There's a reason why when I am cantering in mass, people are bawling. No joke. It happens almost every single time I sing in church.
I
They
love that.
come up to me and they line up. I had little girls crying because I
Ah,
sang the Schubert Ave Maria.
jeez.
And they were like hugging me, and they're like, it was just so beautiful. And that's all they can say is it was so beautiful. And I appreciate that. But I channel God. I call him in. I'm like, this is your voice. Who do you want me to reach to? Who do you want me to reach?
Yeah, see, that's the key. It's you're adding that intention, and
Yes.
that's just, I mean, you can feel it. I can feel it. I bawl when I hear certain music or sounds, and it reminds me. I studied with Dale Allen Hoffman, who's an Aramaic scholar,
Mm.
and a beautiful, just beautiful, incredible work. He's started reading the Bible as a young boy, read everything, studied. It was just this is his calling anyway. So I love his stuff, but he was the first to make me realize that when Jesus said, and this, I think people know this now, like back in the day in Hebrew and in Aramaic and in, the old languages, they sang their prayers, right? So
Mhm.
when Jesus said, pray this way, like the Our Father, wasn't it? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be the name of the kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. It was Awum Lishmaya Nikadashmak. It was like
Mm.
sing it.
Yeah. From your heart. Yeah.
Right. And so that's like, like, yeah. So I don't know. I appreciate you so much because you really embody all these core principles and teachings that are essential from in the world, and especially like you said, especially today, like it's game on. Like
Oh,
it's I don't think anyone out there listening is gonna like deny that it's been rough, and getting rougher. All right. I
yeah.
mean, I look back 40 years ago when I started doing this stuff and naive thinking, oh yeah, well, this is such powerful work. Humanity will really shift. And by 2012, blah, 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 it'll be peace and love and 1,000 years of gold. And, like my teacher said, and I'm like, in the return of the feminine and all this, like all this good stuff. And it's like, I'm going, no, what happened? Like, it didn't work, but it's like, yeah, it's going to be probably a couple hundred more years, but
Right.
it's game on. Like this is time. This is the time to take this seriously. And I think both of us, and I really appreciate this about you so much, is that it's about non-denominational, reaching out, anyone, everyone. This isn't like a big deal. This isn't, you don't need to belong to anything to take advantage of this.
Oh my goodness, no. I mean,
Right?
you're a person. You're a child of God.
Yeah,
And
you're here.
that's
You're
it.
here. Like
That's all you need
it's
to
like
do.
there's a lot of unknown. People don't know. God works in mysterious ways. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
So don't think you need to. You'll never know enough, right? Like this is the key with the mind. It's like, I don't care what you belong to, what you believe, and what you study. There's so much of the unknown that you oughta, like, from a scientific point of view, recognize that and use what you can. Use the tools.
Mm-hmm.
May not know how to. No one taught you how to use a hammer, but if you got to put a nail in a board to save your life,
Right.
you're going to figure it out. You're going to pick that thing. You're not going to do it with your hand. Oh, no, I don't belong to the hammer religion. I'm going to do this with my own hand. No, you go, give me that hammer. I don't care where it's from.
And if I
Right?
can offer a little bit more, there is something that I also like to convey to people.
Mm.
I am, I get a little worried when people start taking things into their hands and practicing things that they shouldn't be. Because I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Most of the clearings have been because somebody's opened a door that they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like there are a
Good point.
lot of things that people they think it's cool and they're thrill seekers.
Yeah, like don't mess around with the Ouija board. Like don't do
What are you
this
doing?
kind of.
I'm like, what'd you do with the Ouija board?
Yeah,
Why would
do
you do
not.
that? Yeah, don't do that. And
Oh,
they
I'm so
think
glad
it's
you brought that up. This is huge advice. Like,
yeah.
be
And
careful what you're messing with.
you're messing with, and these young girls, I'll tell you this one story.
Mm.
These young girls in where were they? In Eagle Rock, I think. And they were, they watched Charmed and they get all excited. It makes it look all glamorous. And they start taking on and going on Amazon and buying books of spells and doing all. So I received this call and it was full on freak out. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, there's stuff in our house. And, so, and I knew before, because when people start telling me things, I start seeing it. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, I said, it's up to you. Do you want me to come there? And do you want me to handle it? Because if you don't, I can't do anything. If you don't give me authority, I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. So they said, yes, we want you to come. So I go to the house and they were all practicing what they considered witchcraft, right? Because of what they see on TV or whatever.
Nah.
And, it was like, wow. I'm like, what are you can't do things like that. They opened so many doors in that house that I closed that night.
Yeah.
And so just please, it's not a thing to be a thrill seeker and go hunting. I
Yeah.
don't, ghost hunting really does not
right. And you're
sit well
not
with me.
being anti-establishment. Like I think people think, well, I'm not religious. I'm not a church person. I'm gonna be like shamanic and they do sorcery accidentally. But it's
Right.
the same idea. It's like it's not about that. Like nobody's judging you. Nobody cares if you do this.
No.
Go ahead. It's just actions have consequences. Like
Right.
just if you're wanting to walk east and you start walking west and you ask me what's wrong, I'm going to tell you, well, you said you wanted to go east. You need to
Right.
turn around. I have no judgment where you want to walk. Like I don't judge if you want to do witchcraft or you want to do these things. Like this
Right.
isn't what it's about. I'm just saying that you will you may not like it. You may not like what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you can drive your car,
into.
but I suggest you don't speed. It's kind of like
Right.
that.
Don't speed. Don't leave your doors open. Don't walk down the street at night with money hanging out your pocket in a crime-ridden part of town. You will get robbed. You can do it if you want, but just know what you're doing.
Know what you're doing. That's the biggest thing. I mean, it's just it's a very interesting time because I find that a lot of the places I've gone into, because they're kind of goofing off, and I really agree with Amy Allen when she said, when you're going and seeking out spirits, which I don't know why people do this, there are plenty around you. You don't have to seek them out, but when you're kind of doing that ghost hunting thing, I get it when people are trying to help the situation, but if you're trying to thrill seek and ooh, it's so cool. These are people. These are
they're people.
They were souls.
Yeah, I did that, on that show with Rob Lowe. We went into the Preston Castle in Ione, California. It's the most haunted, whatever, murders and all this kind of stuff. And, they were going to do this kind of like thing, right? Like the ghost adventures and just see if they could connect and everything. And I went in there with, I'm got to do me. So if they called me there's a reason.
Sure.
And it has to do with healing, right? And sure enough, there was one scene where we're connecting at the spot where somebody got murdered, and they said they came through the little ghost box thing. They need healing, and you and I can pick up on that stuff without all the devices, but this is TV,
exactly. Right.
So they needed it, but and that's fine. And it was like, you want me to do the healing? And they said yes, and where outside. Okay, so we walked outside, and then they started giving me some other. They said apple, and they said Jim, and then we, go left, and we found this like area where this guy named Apple Jim had been killed by the kids. Turned out, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna help heal it. Like I got to do my thing, right? And help heal the soul, or clear it, or whatever, and pray. And I didn't know, like at that time, I didn't know if it was like Miwok, Native American there, or if it was somebody else. And I asked in my mind, you want me to do a, Christian prayer or a Native American prayer? And then the little box went Bible.
Oh, wow.
And it said Bible. And I go, okay. So I did I did the prayer. I did some prayer and so like legit, right? But it was like, it really spoke to that thing of, if you're going to go do that, like you said, this isn't fun and game. These are souls that are maybe suffering, that may need healing, that may be frightened, that may be being, trapped by demon, something right going on. And it's a big deal to go in there and start like communicating with them. Like, you better be ready. And you better know what you're doing, and you better,
and you might call on something you don't want,
right?
You don't want to open that door, and it's going to let you know. It's going to let you know. I particularly have, this is my next project. I have an issue with people holding ghost hunting and or ghost tours at plantations.
Oh boy.
And I think and feel like I am African American.
Yes.
From my ancestors. I believe we all share ancestors,
Well,
period.
that's what I was going to say. I'm African.
It's like they're our ancestors. And, it's like this, like, ha ha ha. I was sleeping in the room that the slaves slept in, and the little girl popped up over me and said hello. I mean, that's not, why are, I
That's
mean,
not.
I'm like, first of all, do you know what they went through when they were here?
Yeah.
And they're trapped there. Why don't you call, John and Tiffany or somebody to
Yeah.
remove them?
Let's help
I
them out.
love
Yeah.
that they have it as an educational thing. People
Yeah.
should know,
Yeah.
but don't use that as a moneymaker,
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, again, we're a pretty flawed people in
Yeah.
society, and it is what it is. But certainly, it's great to know. I hope that people listen to this, share this, um, learn something, right, that is helpful to them and potentially anyone, right?
Yeah.
Potentially, there are any non-physical beings that need help as well.
Absolutely. And they should reach out to us if they feel. I really encourage people to, build their strength. And you don't have to have abilities to be open. Everyone is open. But I would suggest, if you are coming up on something that is overwhelming, check in with somebody who knows their stuff,
Yeah.
and let them guide you. I wouldn't say, like, oh, there's a demon in your house. Go ahead, grab a Bible and run in there with holy water. There's specific ways you have to handle demons, and there's specific ways you have to handle specific demons.
Yeah. Well, that's why I call you. Honestly,
Right.
you're the one. I wouldn't imagine that I know, a quarter of what you know about it, and that's a true statement. And I think, well, anyway, yeah. So why don't we, we'll wrap up, and why don't you just let everyone know what's the easiest way to get a hold of you or listen to more of your stuff and learn more from
Sure.
you, and or call on you if they need help.
Yes, you can contact me through email, and it's soul stories, and that's plural, STORIES. So soul stories 444 at gmail.com. And you can look up the stories, my soul stories, of course, on YouTube, and that you would search Soul Stories Monster Woman, because there are several Soul Stories channels.
Cool.
And I have a TikTok as well. So look me up. Feel free to reach out via email if you have something. I'm happy to answer questions or to help in any way I can. That's why I'm here.
Great. So I'll put your email
Yes.
in the in the description, and send me anything else that you think, like any other link. And I love the 444. It's something I know a little bit about. People ask me about it a lot, but all the symbolism that the other side, synchronicities and things that come to us, and that we can call on them using that symbolism, right? And 444 is it the archangels?
It's an angelic number.
Yeah.
In sequence, they mean different things, but 444 has been very important in my life. So that is the number I identify by for my spiritual self.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's powerful stuff. Good stuff. So, people want to learn more. I really encourage them to reach out to you or to either of us. And that's what we're here for. That's what life is for, right? This is for us this time around. Anyway, this is our deal.
Right.
So, thank you so much, Tiffany. I'm really honored and happy that you're doing this. You did this with me, and we'll do more. There'll be more to talk about, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I loved it. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Great. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you.
And to everyone else out there, have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining me, Jon Rasmussen, on my Shaman Radio podcast. Trying to drop one every day now at this point. So it's kind of fun, and we'll keep doing more. And if you want to be a guest, let me know and we'll figure something out maybe. Okay. Thank you.